Okay, we got people in. Good. Hello, everyone. So, I thought I'd go live. I'm going to try and go live now for the next 2 Mondays at least, because it's 2 weeks out from Inner You. So, Inner You cohort 7 starts in 2 weeks today, and I'm buzzing about it. For anybody that doesn't know, I'm going to quickly tell you about it, and then we'll go into the Q&A stuff. If you have questions that you want to ask, from a toxic parent perspective, healing perspective, then put them in the Q&A function, yeah? And then I'll try and keep up with the chat as well. But if you definitely want questions answered, it's best in the Q&A. So Inner You, if you don't know, is an online program that I run. I run it 3 times a year. This will be the 7th one. And it's a 6-week process where you get loads of pre-recorded exercises to do. It's all reflective stuff that takes you on a journey to go and reclaim your inner child and become their champion. Yes, I will be saving this, don't worry. It'll go on my grid. Where you can become you'll go on a 6-week process where you can go and collect and become your inner child's champion. We do that by starting in the now, working on who you are in the now, looking at your relationships over the course of your life, understanding all of the different versions of yourself so that when you go and get your inner child at the end, you can become their champion and they feel safe to be in a relationship with you. What a lot of inner child work, I think, fails to do is to work on who you are now so that that relationship with your inner child can feel safe. And I think a lot of people go straight to get their inner child, and the relationship is strained as a result of that. Yes, you can join Inner You on the 8th of September. We start on the 4th of September. There's a welcome live on that day, and then it's every Thursday from then on, but it's all recorded. So people do sort of join, slightly later, like within a week. So the 8th, you'll be fine to join. You'll just have to catch up on the beginning. So yeah, I'll talk a little bit more about that at the end of the session, but let's jump into some questions. There's some questions coming in. The first thing I did want to talk about, right, because I don't know if I've talked about this, and I noticed it come up a lot in the comments section on here, and then I had a interaction on YouTube, like yesterday or the day before. Now I always try and interact, right, but sometimes I snap and I bite when toxic people comment on my stuff. Sometimes I interact because I think nobody, they get to, like, toxic people get to live this like free life in many ways, yeah, because they're either controlling people, yeah, or they've tried to control the people and then they've cut them out. And like my advice to everybody would be, once you cut these people out, is don't engage with them, right? But also, just the human part of me fucking hates that they get to get away with that. They get to say their shit and nobody comes back at them with any meaning. So sometimes I interact with them. Yeah, it's what I'm saying. And they're always very, very passive aggressive. So if you're somebody who has grown up with a toxic parent, or you've been in relationships of any kind, friendships or romantic relationships with toxic people, then you really do need to understand passive aggressiveness and how it shows up, because they will always use passive aggression as a tactic to get to you. And they'll do that by subtly having little digs at you. Subtle little digs, yeah, that if you call them out on, they can then use reactive abuse to make it seem like you're the one that's being crazy. So an example would be recently on YouTube, somebody commented and they said, they started off by saying, I totally understand what you're saying, right? Which is a clever way of going, I'm being open to all conversation here. And then they said, but the problem is people your age jump to conclusions all of the time and automatically assume it's the parent. Now, it's interesting because what they've done, yeah, is saying people your age is very clever. That is a dig, right? It's not a very nice thing to say. It's a sweeping generalization, and I'm obviously going to be offended by it. So when I responded to just say people your age often don't like to see the truth. And what was interesting is that this person straight away, yeah, their first thing was to say, oh, you were insulted by what I said. I didn't mean any insult, but your first thing that you come back at me with is an insult. And I'd literally chucked the same sentence straight back at them. Yeah, so you see when they received it, they saw it clear as an insult. Same words that they used, yeah. But when they dished it out, they were able to say, that they didn't mean any insult by it. So you have to learn to trust your body with these people when they bring the passive aggressiveness. Yeah, when they bring the passive aggression, you have to really be able to trust your body, because they will always make you question your own reality. They will use that reactive abuse, and they will make you think that you're the crazy one. I never meant that. I never meant any harm by what I said, and because it's always done in that kind of subtle way. Yeah. So trust your body. Learn to trust your body. If you were insulted by something that they said and you know the undercurrent of what they were doing, then you call it out and you stick to it. And what they will do is they will always try and have the last word, like they always do, yeah? And they will try and make you seem like you're crazy. You're the one that's overreacting. You're the one that, can't have a proper conversation. You're the one that, it's a shame you're unable to have a proper conversation. And what they do with their passive aggressiveness is they will never constructively be critical or curious about your opinion. They will just go straight to subtly attacking your character. And then when you're insulted by it, upset or moved appropriately, then they will use the reactive abuse to make you think that you're crazy. And that you're the nasty one, yeah? And they can't have a conversation with you because you can't take any, you're the one that's so sensitive and so touchy, yeah? They will always do that. So you have to go back, get back if you've been in those abusive relationships, you have to get back to trusting your body, knowing, no, I know what you were doing there, and I'm not gonna have you try and call me out any other way, yeah? And trust yourself and forget everybody else, because what they will do is they call in other people. They will call in other people, and they will always, and so when it happens to me online, sometimes you start to think, fuck man, do I look like I'm touchy and sensitive here? And of course, sometimes you are, right? Sometimes I am. But it's often reactive abuse. And look, the way that they will do it as well, yeah? Let me tell you this very fucking clearly. To all you toxic people out there, yeah? Being sort of passively horrible and subtly trying to make people react, the person that you're abusing react, yeah, in a text message or a comment, yeah, finishing it with hugs or I wish you out or fucking namaste, which is what a lot of them do, yeah, finishing with that doesn't fucking wash with me, yeah, and if you're one of the people that's been on the receiving end of them, just because you write namaste or I wish you well at the end of a fucking horrible message, it doesn't make it any less horrible, yeah? And I see you, and I see that bullshit, and I call it out every time. So yeah, I wanted to start by saying that on the passive aggressiveness, because I get it quite a lot. On the comments, and then when you call them out, yeah, they don't like it. And one of the things, just quickly before I start answering questions, one of the things that I've been doing quite a lot is because they'll say, well, clearly you can't have a constructive conversation about this. So I'm going to opt out. I offer them, I'll say, listen, let's do a live conversation. Let's do a conversation on Zoom. You can say everything you want to say. I'll have an open conversation with you. Boom, they go, mate. They are gone. I haven't had one say yes yet. They'll say things, they won't say, no, I'm not doing that. They'll say, there's no point in having a conversation with somebody like you because whatever. Right, let's get some of these questions. My parents kept me isolated from friends, other family, the world. Can't connect or relate to people. Advice. Yes, so it's a very common tactic for toxic and abusive parents to not allow you any kind of social life when you're younger. Because obviously, if you did, then you would see what the reality of your experience is. Because when you were young, it was your only normal, right? Many people that grew up with toxic or abusive parents will have spent some of their life, at least, particularly their childhood, often talking about, their parent being a hero and how heroic their parent was and how amazing they were, yeah? Because you're sort of fed that and manipulated into believing that. And so having friends could scupper that control. So they would have made you think you're crazy. They would have subtly stopped you having friends in many different ways, sometimes overtly and sometimes covertly, as in sometimes saying you're not having them and stopping you from doing it, and then in other ways making you scared to do that. Some of the work that I really think that you have to do to rekindle that, to come to the question, is really work on yourself and start to get to know yourself better and know who you are. Come back to trusting your body when it gives you things and gives you feelings, and understand it and believe it. And then that way you can start to integrate with the world again, right? Which is what a lot of people have to do, which is horrible in and of itself. My toxic parent is taking me to court but doesn't have a legal standing. Do I fight? Do I pay her back? Please help. My toxic parent is taking me to court but doesn't have a legal standing. Do I pay her back? I wouldn't pay her back. I don't know. It's hard. It's difficult without the full context of that one. It's difficult. How can I cope with a toxic mother-in-law? This is a question I get asked a lot. It's difficult, right? Because if the mother-in-law, the father-in-law, the toxic parent-in-law, it depends on your relationship with your partner and whether they see it. And it can become really, really difficult and really tricky in that sense. But you have to stand in your truth and you have to stand in your power. And that comes back to, I know I've said it, but I'm going to keep saying it, to really being able to trust my body, to being able to say, no, this is not acceptable, and being able to, as much as I can, with not too much emotion, being able to go, this is what I feel, and this is what I heard and understood with that behavior, and this is why it's unacceptable. The more that you can understand yourself, the more that you can just clearly call things out in that way. Obviously, the sort of go-to suggestion with any toxic or narcissistic person is to cut them out completely. But I also have to really recognize and understand that, particularly when we're talking about in-laws and family, it's not always that simple. Yeah, so we need to have different tactics to help us be able to cope in that situation. And at the core of all of those tactics is to be able to trust and understand myself, so that in the main, I can calmly call out toxicity straightly and clearly, and then not need to engage in a back and forth. I've said my piece. This is what I think. This is what I know, and this was my experience. So hopefully that helps. Does responding to passive aggressiveness make you feel better than ignoring it? No. No, it doesn't. Ignoring it is normally the best option. Yeah, I would say, like, ignoring in nearly every single case is the best option. But the reason I do a lot of calling it out here is because that's kind of what my page and my community is about calling this out. And I can kind of take a step back from it because it's just my content. I mean, it affects me, don't get me wrong. Yeah, sometimes it's hard doing the content that I do, yeah, and getting the abuse that I do. That, like, it is hard. But I also feel that toxic and narcissistic people love people that turn a blind eye. So I get the opportunity to be able to call it out a little bit and just highlight it. So I do when I can. But if I was in a relationship with the person, or had a relationship with that person for whatever reason, then I wouldn't do it. I would just ignore it. Could you please talk about the feelings that grow when a parent that you've cut off are heading towards death? Yeah, okay, so I've talked about this one quite a lot previously. It's a really tricky situation because you will have been dealing with living grief for a long time, which is like grieving the loss of a parent that they could never be. And then when they die, there's going to be this complex grief that then comes with that as well, right? Which can be really, really tricky. This is why I think community is really important. Finding some kind of community where you can, other people that have been through similar things. There's lots of people, and in fact, maybe I'll make a little bit of a reel out of this piece here and just ask people to, in the comment section, please share their experiences of having cut ties with a toxic parent, and they're heading towards death. Because look, it's different for everybody, and I think what's really important is to hear other people's experiences, because often you're on your own, and the only people that want to, that can help and support you are the people around you, and they have no experience of it, and they always tend, unfortunately, to lean towards reconciliation, and well, you best go and do this, and you best make it up to them and get back in a relationship with them in whatever capacity, because you'll miss them when they're gone and all of that. And as well-meaning as that sometimes is, it's often really problematic. I've gone no contact with my entire family. They act with aggression and tell everyone I am a bad person and need to apologise. I've been practising boundary setting, but it's becoming a nightmare. I'm getting inundated with abusive texts. I just ignore, but it's becoming so difficult. Let me say this really clearly, first off. before I get into some of the semantics of it. Don't shame yourself for how you feel, yeah? Don't get too caught up in these fucking social media gurus who talk about laying a boundary and then abuse goes away, right? When we're talking about family, it fucking doesn't. You can lay all the boundaries in the world, yeah? And abusive people, they'll go under them, round them, and fucking between them in the best way that they can to always try and get to you, yeah? So your job here is not to work towards forgiveness and work towards reconciliation and being the better person and all of these things that seem so fucking easy when people talk about them on social media. Your job is to carve out the best version of your life that you can in the midst of the abuse that you're experiencing. Block all of the numbers. Know that sometimes you will react. Don't shame yourself when you do. Know that this is hard. Know that it's difficult. Know that there ain't nothing out there that can help you lay a boundary so it all just goes away and it doesn't affect you. So don't shame yourself when it does. Enjoy the good moments when you can and do your best to cut it out of your life as completely as you can. Blocking, getting rid of, ignoring, do all of that. And then the last piece I'll say is that find community that I talked about, because you're going to need people around you. You're really going to need people around you that have been through this and that or that understand, yeah. And because you deserve that. You deserve that as well. What else have we got? How can I stop being attracted to abusive people? It's the only thing I'm attracted to. Look, let me just reframe some of this, because I hear this a lot. People that are attracted to abusive people, right? Sometimes we're pulled into what feels familiar. If when you were younger, you grew up in an environment that made you work really hard in order to feel loved, then you may start to get the subconscious belief that love is about working really, really hard to impress somebody, all right? So like, we can get pulled towards what feels comfortable in that way. The problem is, and most people will recognize this, knowledge in and of itself doesn't seem to stop us seeming to end up in these in these situations, right? Repeatedly, and it feels like we're drawn to them and like they're a magnet to us, right? Actually, the issue here is not necessarily that we're attracted to them. It's that we, for some reason, often will ignore the red flags and ignore our body. So it comes back to what I've talked about repeatedly here, and this is why I think things like breath work can be really, really important. You need to come back to your body. When your body screams red flag at you, you need to see that red flag, and then you need to act on that red flag as well. And just know that toxic people, they don't pick and choose people. They fucking throw out the net, and anybody who wants to take it, then they'll keep them in. So try not to shame yourself too much as if you are the issue here. Abusive people chuck out the net. Abuse happens whether we like it or not sometimes. Don't fucking listen to these people online that tell you, you stop abuse by fucking the way that you think and all that shit, yeah? It's way more complex than that. So don't shame yourself in that way. But know yourself the best that you can. Yeah, know yourself the best that you can so that you know your body. So that you have defenses against these people. What else have we got? Could you please talk about the feelings that grow when a parent that we've done that one. Do I have people, I'm 54, long time ago, do you have people my age reaching out? Absolutely. Listen, my Inner You program that I run 3 times a year, that has people on it ranging from, early adulthood, 18 to 19, 20, 21. But I would say the common age is over 35. So yeah, it's proper common. It's proper common. I'm no contact from my narcissistic mother and brother, but I don't know how much to calm. I'm no contact from my narcissistic mother and brother, but I don't know how to calm my body and stop the guilt. Do you have any advice, please? Look. At the risk of over-advertising myself, please, the link in my bio, you can go and try my free breathwork. Please go and try that. I do that regularly for myself to bring myself back into my body. And it's one of the only ways where I can come back to my body. But then understand that I come away from my body a lot, yeah? Also, and I say this a lot too, Check what you're feeling is not shame rather than guilt. Yeah. Do you feel like you've done something really bad, or do you feel like you're a really bad person? The two are different. If you feel like you're a really bad person, what you're dealing with is shame. And if you were to come and do Inner You, which, like I say, starts in a couple of weeks, I'm not just trying to sell that, but you can go on that process to try and get rid of some of that shame. My dad died, amazing parent. My mum died, amazing parent. Dad, toxic parent, still or interested in me. I'm an only child, now having a baby. Should I close the door fully on my father for my sanity, or keep the door ajar so my child has the choice to have him in their life? Listen, let me just read that question again, and then I'm going to give you my answer so that we get clear context. Basically, your mum has passed away. You have a toxic dad who's still around and still interested in you. You're an only child and you're having a baby. You're asking me if you should close the door fully on your father for your own sanity, or keep the door ajar so my child has the choice to have him in their life. Let me say this, you can always change your mind throughout your whole life. Yeah, let's be really, really clear on that. But let me say this. I don't know the full context of your life, so I can only answer the question that you've given me. And you've asked me if you should close the door on your father for your own sanity. So you're telling me that your sanity is dependent on him not being in your life, right? So your choice is no sanity for you, but your children, your child gets the opportunity to potentially have a relationship with somebody that you know to be toxic, or leave him entirely and keep your sanity. If they are the two choices, and of course it will be a lot more messy and complex than that, but if they're the two choices, which are the ones that you've outlined here, then the answer is obvious. Listen, your sanity, you didn't ask for this. You didn't ask for a toxic and abusive father, your words, or you said toxic. You didn't ask for a toxic dad, to use your words, yeah? You didn't ask for that. So you've got to do what's right, that gives you the best opportunity to have your sanity, yeah, and to be the best mum that you can be for that child. Have we got any more here? I've just realised it says to me that if I tap the question, it comes up on the screen. Toxic is toxic, period. If they are toxic with you, they will be toxic with everyone. Yeah, that's the reality. Listen, the toxic people that I'm talking about, they don't care about anyone but themselves. At the center of their world and their universe is themselves. Everyone is a pawn in that puzzle, and that's all they are. At any point, even when these toxic people are being nice, it's for a reason. It's only ever to weaponize it again against you or against anybody else. They will treat you well and do what you need, that they need you to do, yeah, or you need them to do, until they fucking don't need you anymore, and then you're gone. Yeah, and so what often happens with their grandchildren, so if you've got a toxic parent, what will often happen with your child is they'll be lovely to them at the beginning, and perhaps for a long time, to get at you. It's a continued form of abuse. Yeah, look how amazing I am with this child. Yeah, how awful a person it is. You. I told you all along it was you. Yeah. Yes, this live will be saved. It goes on my grid. It also goes on YouTube as well. I'm filming it over here, so it goes straight on YouTube. How do you hang on to your reality when the rest of your family is still enmeshed with the person you've cut off? Listen, a great question. How do you hang on to your reality when the rest of your family is still enmeshed with the person you've cut off? You do everything you can to put yourself first and the life that you've built as a result of what you've done first. You protect that at all costs. It's difficult, yeah. It may mean that some of the relationships with good people in your family that remain enmeshed in that, yeah, it may mean that those relationships become scuppered, become more difficult, become less good than they potentially could be. That's not your fault. Yeah, that's not your fault. You keep working on that life that you're building. Yeah, you keep out of it. You stay doing what's right for you, and you welcome anybody to join you that wants to cut it off and wants to get rid of that toxicity. You leave the door open for them to do that potentially if you want to. Yeah. Otherwise, keep working on you. Keep doing you, and don't fucking let them drag you back down, because they'll try. They'll try. Is ignorance or little to no emotional awareness a form of toxicity? I think There's a great book called Emotionally Immature Parents, Children of Emotionally Immature Parents. I think you should go and read that. You will experience it as toxicity, potentially. But I would sort of define toxicity as like a bit more intentional, yeah? What we might be talking about here is I would probably frame as dysfunctional. But listen, it's in the eye of the beholder, yeah? It's really difficult to have somebody that's supposed to love and be with you in all of your experiences, not be with you and seemingly love you in all of your experiences, right? So it's in the eye of the beholder. When I talk about toxicity, I'm really talking about people that actively go out of there to fucking abuse you. The resulting distress for both of those instances, though, can be just as extreme in both cases. Let's have a look, see if we've got any more here. I'm going to do a couple more and then I'm going to go because I need a wee. My mum is toxic, but I am aware that it is generational for her. I struggle with the feelings I have because I know her upbringing affected her. How do I balance? Really good question. Right, I'm going to tap it and see if it comes on. Maybe you might not want that showing, actually, so I'm going to get rid of it. I'm going to read it again, though. My mum is toxic, but I'm aware that it is generational for her. I struggle with the feelings I have because I know her upbringing affected her. How do I balance? Listen, firstly, let me say this. Generational, or it being because of their upbringing, is no excuse for toxicity and it's no excuse for abuse. Yeah, it might be the reason. It doesn't get to be an excuse. You can understand why somebody is like they are. You can even have compassion and love for them as a result of that, right? And you need to recognize what is right for you in your life today. Some people will reach a place where they fucking hate this toxic person and they cut them out and they never want anything to do with them again, yeah? Some people will have to cut them out with love and understanding. Neither is right or wrong. They're both just two different examples, right? But you have to do what's right for you. And so to answer your question, how do you balance? You make sure you get, maybe, and I'm making this up as I go along, but maybe you could create a list of the things that really mean something to you in your life right now. What is important to me? What are my values? What are non-negotiables in my life? Yeah. And then if you want to allow that person to be in your life in some way, right? And everybody's situation is different. It's really important. But if you did want them to be in there, then you go, here's the boundaries. Here's my list of my rights and my non-negotiables. If you scupper any of these, or you tread on any of these, then that's when you're going to be pushed back against. So you can love and understand this person, yeah, or you can hate them. There's no right or wrong here. And what I dislike with a lot of what I see online is that people try and talk about like a spiritual ideal as if like there's a right ideal here and this is what you should be working to. Nah, just fucking do what's right for you. Right, let's see if I can do one more question in the Q&A, if there is any more. I think they're all gone. I'm going to catch up with the questions here. The unfairness of my mother and sister working together to be nasty to me is hard. What do I do with the hurt? Go and do my breath work, it's free. Go and do that and get rid of some of the resulting emotion, and then go to as little contact as you can with people that are being abusive with you. I really mean that. I said this a million times and I'll say it again before we start to wrap up here, but I never tell people that they should cut anybody out of their life. I think people should do what's right for them. But what I will say is that some people are left with no choice. Like what? The tag of being a brother or a sister or a mother or a father is enough to allow abuse to continue. What? Because what? There is no reason. And so sometimes people are left with no other choice. And, often people don't do it, run off into the sunset and live happily ever after. They're making the best of a bad situation. So I think, people should do what works for them. Listen, I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to say this. I really appreciate this. I'm going to do more of these. Definitely one next Monday. I will probably do more of these in the future. Just to let you know, look, you can go and do that free breath work. That's the link in my bio. You can go and do that. You can get 72 hours access to it for it. That's completely free. In 2 weeks from now, we start the next cohort of Inner You. If you've grown up in any kind of dysfunction, you have any kind of healing to do, Inner You really could be for you. Go and check the reviews on my website. or through the Trustpilot link in my bio. You'll see that people have life-changing experiences. I try and keep it as accessible as I can. It's £99 all in. You get all of the lives to that. You get access to all of the work that you'll need to do. And over the course of the 6 weeks, we'll take you on a journey of understanding who you are in the world today, why you show up, and then we'll take you to go and get your inner child so that you can become their champion. I'm very proud of Inner You. I'm very proud of keeping it at a point that's accessible for most people. And listen, I'd love to see you there. I'd love to see some of you on that journey. And if you're not sure, go and try the free breathwork, because that's free. And that'll give you an idea. All right, I'm going to close this down. Thank you.